and welcome to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point. We saw a lot of Justin Fields in the second half, and he showed us why he is a dual threat, using his legs, scrambling, getting to the sideline. In the end, it was not enough. The Steelers lost to the Bills 9-3. Hello and welcome to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point. I'm AJ Ross, joined by Max Starks. Max, I got to ask you, what was your biggest takeaway from the game tonight?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway was seeing this team not really get over the sins of last week. I think that's one of the biggest things I took away from this. We saw a lot of good things defensively. We saw moments offensively, but they didn't string together. There was no cohesion and consistency from the first and the second team squads offensively, and I think that's eventually what we saw in eventually taking over the team.
Yeah, you know, I want to get back to the field where we have Missi Matthews standing by with Keeanu, Benton.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Keeanu, take me through what this preseason has been like for you, especially when you're getting into a stadium.
You know, it's been fun. It's been exciting. Just kind of getting to know each individual guy and how we come together and make it happen out here.
What about you personally? What do you feel like you're putting on tape that's getting back to the coaches?
For me, it's just being more physical. I think I've done that these first couple preseason games, but just improving on last year and making that next step as a leader and as a player.
Were you guys some of those sacks in the first half debating who got one or who gets a half?
Yeah, you know, we talk about it. I say I got it all. Nick say he got it all, but I think we got half and half on that one.
What does it mean to have somebody like him who you trained with in the offseason and to be able to work together now professionally?
It's awesome. You know, that's my brother now. Like, we done did so many years playing ball together. We just kind of know each other, kind of know how to work off of our moves and go out there and get those sacks and get those half sacks. So I wouldn't want to share with nobody else but him.
When we interviewed him earlier this week, he said that you're a Herbig, but you're the little brother.
He the little brother. That's a little brother thing to say, you know, like. But yeah, they brought me into their family with open arms, and that's like my family. So.
Lastly, for you, Julius getting that sack at the end of this game, you guys are pretty pumped on the sideline.
Yeah, you know, he's been working his tail off every day, and seeing his progress from the first day at camp to now is amazing. So just rooting him on and making sure he knows that he got it.
All right, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we'll send it back to you.
And thank you, Missy, for that interview. That was presented by Ticketmaster, the official marketplace of the NFL. Get your tickets now on Ticketmaster.com/Steelers. Max, let's talk about Keeanu a little bit, and even that dynamic he was talking about with Nick Herbig. What have you seen from him through training camp and, you know, a little bit tonight?
Well, I mean, what I love about Keeanu Benton, when you've been looking for a guy to be that nose, to be another defensive line, to go opposite Larry Ogunjobi and Cam Hayward, someone that you were looking to fill a role of what Stephon Tuitt meant to this defensive line. I think you found someone in the young Badger in Keeanu Benton. And the one thing I love is that not only can he stop in the run game, but he can create his own pass rush. And I love seeing the different ways he does it. He can push a pocket. He can also knife and get thin and get up the field and actually pressure guys. Like you said, on the sack tonight, debating with Nick Herbig who got the full sack, if you got halves. That's the type of player he needs, and that's the energy you're going to need coming into the season, being able to produce a pass rush from the nose tackle position.
As you talk about energy, Cam Hayward is a guy that brings it all the time. We haven't seen much of him, but you've seen him at training camp. I'm sure they're trying to keep him fresh for the regular season. Just his impact, obviously, on this team as far as leadership and what you've seen so far that, you know, come regular season, fans will see.
Well, he's an unequivocal leader. I mean, when you think about the face of a franchise, when you don't have a quarterback, you turn to other ways, and Cam Hayward has been that guy. He has towed the line, reigning Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner, and he embodies everything you want, not only in a Steeler, but in a captain and a leader of this team. And as we kind of look at the position room, you know, a lot of those guys have to step up and play, especially the guys towards the right of the screen, which is DeMarvin Leal, Isaiah Loudermilk. Both of them played a lot of quality snaps tonight. Leal's had a great camp, and Isaiah Loudermilk's starting to come on. He got some extended play tonight, and I thought he did a good job with his opportunity.
And this position room is presented by Western PA Chevy Dealers. I want to keep it here with the D-line and talk a little Larry Ogunjobi, because he is definitely someone that we see, you know, making an impact game in, game out.
Yeah, Larry O. I mean, I love what Larry brings. I've gotten to watch Larry from other teams. I got to watch him when he was a Charlotte 49er. So I've seen a lot of Larry O over the years, and he's just a consummate professional. He always comes prepared. He's always in shape. You know, I know he dealt with the foot last year, but he overcame that. He looks healthy, and he's a big, dominant guy. And when in doubt, when you're up in the press box looking down on the field, all you have to do is just look for the arms because he has the big guns, and he always likes to show them off. But he's doing a great job just being that other guy. When you talk about the front line of the defense, I love Larry O paired with Cam and now Keeanu and Ben kind of rounding out that starting unit of the base defense.
For sure. Well, I want to turn things back to the fans and get some feedback on who you were most impressed with tonight, who stood out to you. Post your comments on social media with the hashtag SteelersNation, and we may feature it on our broadcast tonight. These social media posts are presented by South College, proud partner of the Steelers. And we're headed to break here on the Neighborhood Ford Store. Steelers Extra Point. Again, the final score, Bills 9, Steelers 3. We've got more post-game reaction coming up, including interviews with Mike Tomlin and more players. The Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point is brought to you in part by Xfinity. Stream live sports from the best seat in the house. Xfinity, bring on the good stuff. And it's time now to bring in two guys who had some great seats tonight and called the game up in the booth, Bob Pompeani and Charlie Batch. Guys, I want to ask you your biggest takeaways on the evening.
Well, to be honest, AJ, it was the punters. I thought both Sam Martin and Cameron Johnston of the Steelers did very well. If you look at the averages, 56 for Johnston, 53 for Martin. And that pretty much sums up the game, Charlie,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, there was not a lot of offense to be had. The first team Steeler offense 0 for 8 in their first 2 games. That has to get better.
Has to get better. Red zone has to get better. They were 0 for tonight. They just couldn't finish. And I think when you look back at everything that's transpired, Mike Tomlin is not going to be happy about it, especially when you look at the pressure that the offensive line has given up front to not allow your quarterback to step up and deliver the football like in the manner that they have been throughout training camp. So there's going to be a lot to talk about here.
Now it's time to take a look at the Explore Altoona stats. This is brought to you by Explore Altoona, small destination but big adventures. And there you see some of the things we're talking about here. Third down conversions. Now this was a problem last week. The Steelers couldn't get it done, and today same thing. 4 of 13 in the second half. They had some fourth down conversions which didn't go their way either.
And the weighty downs, that's what Mike Tomlin talks about. You talk about situational football. They rep that a lot in Latrobe, and unfortunately it's not carrying over into the games in this manner. And right now, 2 games at home, you have a lot of things that are going, a lot of moving pieces that are happening right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mike Tomlin addresses the final preseason game and his final dress rehearsal as he prepares for that week 1 opener against Atlanta. So there's a lot to talk about.
Now it's time for the quarterback analysis by our quarterback here, Charlie. Let's start with Russell Wilson.
You can see him right here, just nice little out route to the outside, get his feet wet as he's stepping back into the huddle for the first time since his injury. Fryer move to the right. Again, trying to find Patterson here to the left. Not much happening in the manner of picking up first downs. You see Warren here, and then again delivering the football underneath, not just able to push the football down the field. And these are things that you like to see from a stat perspective. 8 for 10, which is good stats, but not able to put the team in the end zone.
Plus, there were 3 sacks along the way. He had to endure that. Meanwhile, Justin Fields came in, and he used his legs. And Mike Tomlin said at halftime they wanted to see more of that, maybe too much more. He did make some plays, there's no question, but he had a wide open receiver at the end of one of the drives, and he overthrew him.
Yeah, overthrew him there. If he's able to hit that touchdown at the end of the game, maybe that changes the whole narrative as far as what we're talking about right now. But Arthur Smith did a nice job of moving the pocket for Justin Fields, allowing him to utilize his athleticism. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to put them in the end zone either.
Yeah, and the fourth down calls, there were a couple of them. Buffalo took a timeout before that, and I think everybody knew it was going to be some sort of read option, and boy, they had it diagnosed beautifully.
They did. They called that timeout. They anticipated that Justin was going to pull that football out, and you saw the linebacker scrape over the top and cause a big loss on that fourth down opportunity for the Steelers in the red zone.
I want to remind you that quarterback breakdown was brought to you by Cleveland Brothers. Cleveland Brothers, as you covered, Pennsylvania's largest Caterpillar equipment dealer. So 1 preseason game left. Normally, Charlie, they don't do much in those games, but there's a lot to work out here, and that's going to be the one final tune-up before the Atlanta opener on September the 8th. How do you think Mike Tomlin will play it?
Yeah, defensively, I think he's okay there, but you do have a lot of injuries that are mounting up on the offensive side of the ball. A lot to talk about as it relates to what the identity of this football team on the offensive side is going to look like. Hey, there's a lot to talk about, so there's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made in that Detroit game in anticipation of what week 1 in Atlanta is going to be like.
Guys, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about some of the big plays we saw on defense and what that might mean for the season going forward.
Go ahead, Joe.
I think Nick Herbig, I think that was
Right.
a one there. We all thought that we were going to see T.J. Watt here tonight. Nick Herbig stepped up in a big way, 1.5 sacks. So he's part of that rotation. But I think ultimately on the other side, on the defensive front, I think there's a lot to be excited about on the defensive side of the ball.
Now he's going to say he had 2 sacks, but then it was Larry Ogunjobi. It was also DeMarvin Lee. There are a lot of people got involved in that one. He eventually, I think, got credit for at least a half of it. So that guy.
That's what those defensive linemen do.
That's what
They
they
try to
do.
touch and try to get that half sack.
Max, I don't know if you have another question for them about defense, but that was for sure the tail of the game throughout, especially in that second half with some of the stops, especially with the Bills' last drive there.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, like Charlie and Bob talked about, the punting game, playing the position battle, the chess match on the field. Even though we expect to see a lot more checkers, running the football, just getting the easy plays going, it became that field position battle that eventually Buffalo just got more breaks in their way that allowed for them to score 2 more field goals. But the good thing is the defense did not give up any touchdowns in that game. Thought there were some great defenses, especially when they got deep into the red zone. They were able to hold up and force them to kick short field goals for the points instead of getting 7.
Well, thank you, Max, and thank you, Bob and Charlie. We are going to have much more coming up on the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point coming up, including head coach Mike Tomlin. Stick around. The Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point is brought to you in part by Shinderovich and Fishman, backed by the personal injury law experts. Gear up with game day necessities at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline gear, jerseys, terrible towels, memorabilia, and custom exclusives directly from the team. You can also gear up online at shop.steelers.com. So now, it's my favorite times of the show. We got to review some of the Yins Chat predictions from pregame here with Max. Max, we asked you to predict over/under 1.5 touchdown passes for Justin Fields. Not so much. Over/under 1.5 sacks for Nick Herbig. He came really close, but what do you think about your predictions tonight?
I mean, I feel pretty good. I mean, I did predict the under. Of course, I thought there would actually be a touchdown pass performed, just not 2. So technically I won there. And then Nick Herbig, it's a tie because he got exactly 1.5 sacks. He should have had 2, but listen, I guess he split it with his Badger brother. So I'll give it to him. So I feel pretty good. I'm like 3.5 and I guess.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
not knocking
on
it.
this.
I'm going to see if its streak continues next week.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Well, right now we have head coach Mike Tomlin standing by at the podium.
Still not what we're looking for. It was better in some areas, but still JV and too many others. An area of improvement I thought was net punting. The field position component of play got flipped this time around. We're much better in this game than we were in the last one. Still not winning enough possession downs on offense, particularly early, in an effort to establish rhythm and game plays and develop personality and so forth. When you're not winning possession downs at the early portions of the game, all of those things really get stymied. Included in that, but also separate from that, I just thought we didn't do a good enough job of protecting the quarterback. We got to do a better job in pass protection than we did, not only in possession downs, but just in general. And I was really upfront with the group about it. In that regard, that can't be a problem for us. We got to be better than we were tonight in that area. On defense, particularly in the second half, I thought our young people wore down some. They were able to control the game and minimize our opportunities because they were running the football some. Our secondary people in the crack replace gaps and so forth. You don't have a chance to have really good run defense unless your secondary people are really on it. I thought we had a lot of area for improvement, particularly in the second half, in terms of some of those things, and that's why their run total was what it was, and really limited some of our possession opportunities in the second half. But we'll meet tomorrow, man. We'll comb through it in great detail. That's just a knee-jerk assessment of some things. From a health standpoint, Jaylen Warren had a hamstring in game. I don't know the extent of it. He'll be evaluated. I'll have more information for you, obviously, over the next couple of days. Peyton Wilson was being treated for a concussion. Anthony Averett had a hamstring as well. Some other bumps and bruises, but I think in most instances, those guys return to play. But again, I'll have more detail for you next time we come together around the health of some people. Questions?
Kind of limited opportunities, and it's the preseason, but would you like to see your first team offense produce some points?
Absolutely. In order to do that, you got to win possession downs, and we're just not winning enough of those right now. And so, that problem lingers.
How do you feel Russ did, aside from their issues with Vector?
Again, it's somewhat of an incomplete study because you just don't get a chance to see him operate, or us establish rhythm and personality when you're not winning possession downs. And we weren't. The first 3 or so series of the game, it was 3 and out, and you're not going to get an opportunity to establish rhythm or play the way that you would like as an individual or a collective.
Coach, minus the turnovers from last week, you feel that the group did have some adequate progress in terms of what you have been looking for?
Certainly, but I'm not looking for the feel good. I'm looking for the things that we need to set our focus on in an effort to improve. But I acknowledge there were some things that were better today, certainly.
You make Justin Fields' second performance, and obviously specifically last week went to that quarterback center exchange.
I thought he got better in some areas. I thought he did a nice job utilizing his legs, whether it was impromptu or otherwise, to keep some situations alive. But again, I just thought performance was stymied by our lack of protection and our lack of execution on possession down play. We're going to be thoughtfully aggressive in possession down ball. We had another 4th down in the red area that we lost again this week as we work to, score touchdowns. And, we're just not going to be compromising in that regard. We put too much effort into our prep in that area not to be thoughtfully aggressive in that area. But that's 2 weeks in a row where we lost a 4th down play in the tight red zone, for example. And that just shows you the weight and the impact of possession down play.
Is there any, what did you think of Zach Frazier, or is there any note on the status of Nate Herbig right now?
Nate's got an injury that's being continually evaluated. I think he's getting a second opinion. I want to wait to that. I'll give you guys some information probably the next time we come together. But I was largely satisfied with the work that I saw from Zach.
Update on Benny Bishop?
Benny was a little bit limited on our last work day here on Thursday against Buffalo, and so we didn't want a small problem to become a big problem. Obviously, the sand's going through the hourglass, and he's got a big week ahead of him, but we didn't want to jeopardize or compromise that, and so we did what we thought was prudent tonight and didn't allow him to participate.
We're taking the front on defense, just the way you guys were aggressive early, attacking the quarterback, putting pressure on them, and then creating a takeaway.
Yeah, I like some of the things that we saw, particularly given some of the people that we didn't play up front on defense, man. Some of those guys that you could characterize as second teamers, if you will, have had a really good team preseason thus far. Guys like Herbig and Mon Adams and Leal have done an awesome job, and I just think you kind of felt that. But we were interested in that. That's why we didn't play, Cam and TJ and Alex and some of those guys. Those guys are deserving of some varsity on varsity reps to show what their capabilities are, and I just thought that was a positive tonight, their play.
How is Heisman progressing?
Tomlin postgame. Again, the final score here at Acrisure Stadium, Bills 9, Steelers 3. We're going to send it back to the podium with Russell Wilson.
Put our heads down and keep getting to work.
I know it may not have been obviously the end result that you were looking for, but for you in the first half, were there things that you did like in positives?
Yeah, I thought I was trying to play in rhythm, trying to get the ball out when we could, and then also just trying to hang in there on the 3rd down, like I mentioned earlier, to Van. Those plays, he did a good job. GP did a really good job on his choice route. We thought he was in on that go ball. That was a sweet catch, but I thought he double toe tapped that one. But I think the best thing that we can do is, the best part about, it's been my 13th year, and every preseason's different. There's highs, there's lows, you have great practices, which we've had a lot of those. Guys have been working their tails off every day. We had a great practice on Thursday, whenever it was. So there's a lot of good that goes unseen sometimes. And there's some things that we also have to fix and get right. And so that's the diligence that we have to have. We have a sense of urgency. Every week, every day you step into the building. Every day you step into the white lines, and that's what we're going to do.
And we're going to have more post-game reaction and analysis here on the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point coming up after this. Subscribe to Steelers Digest, the official fan publication of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Each issue provides game previews, inside information, award-winning columns and features, and complete statistics. Learn more at Steelers-Digest.com. And earlier in the show, we asked you what player wowed you the most tonight. Ryan said Justin Fields. Nathan said Nick Herbig with that explosive play. And Kyle said Cameron Johnston. All good choices, all for sure stood out. And now we want to turn things to our Missi Matthews, who caught up with Des Fitzpatrick after the game.
All right, I have Des Fitzpatrick here. Let's talk about the crazy catch first. What did you see on that play from Justin and knowing where you were on this sideline?
Yeah, so I just know it was a certain coverage that I had to convert my route. Saw him break the pocket, so I worked on my scramble drills, and Justin made a hell of a throw getting it over the guy, and I just it was a concentration catch on the sideline.
You just knew?
I just knew. I just knew. I try to just stay alive for the guy. We work scramble drills all the time, and the best thing is to just stay alive and work with the quarterback, so that's what I tried to do, and it worked out well.
What is it like watching him use his feet to extend those plays?
Oh, that's perfect. I mean, that's where, most of the explosive plays happen in the NFL is, the quarterback breaking the pocket and looking downfield with his legs, and, the receivers obviously staying alive with them and continuing to work. And it was a great example of it right there.
You told me you have not watched the video of that play yet. I can promise you when you open your phone, it will be everywhere. What have teammates been saying to you?
Everybody will just say it was a good catch. But to be honest with you, when you're in the mode and, it's the fourth quarter and we're down and we have the game-winning drive, I could care less about the catch. I'm thinking about the next play.
Absolutely. And you guys did have a chance. What just wasn't working where you guys weren't able to punch it in tonight?
Yeah, we just got to get back all on the same time, same wavelength. That's what practice is for. We're going to go back in there and continue to practice, continue to work hard, and hopefully next week it will be a different result.
Des, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks so much to Missi and Des. We're going to have our final thoughts coming up next here on the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point. Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point. Again, the final score here at Acrisure Stadium, the Bills 9 and Steelers 3. Fans got their first look at Russell Wilson tonight. And if you just look at the stat line, it's really, you can't, contextually make an assessment. What do you think about Russ's overall performance, especially coming back from this calf injury?
I think when you look at the calf injury, the time that was missed, I mean, he missed all but 1 week of training camp, and really that was a truncated week coming into this game. So I think from what we saw from practice, then carrying over to the game, I think like Mike Tomlin said, he just didn't have time to really show what he could really do. He did have a high efficiency, went 8 of 10. You always love 80% completions, but the passing yards number, you want to see the passing yard totals be a lot higher, but he's just trying to get the ball out immediately before getting hit, and he got sacked 3 times. So it was very tough to really tell the true sense, but you can tell he's a consummate pro. And like I said, knowing when to get the ball out, that internal clock is there for him. So it's something to actually build on, and hopefully we'll see what happens with the third preseason game. We know we don't normally see starters, but I think this is a unique situation where the starter or presumed starter has not played a whole lot, and the second string guys played too much almost, it feels like. So you have to figure out how to balance that going into this last game against Detroit.
Absolutely, and Mike Tomlin also mentioned, protections need to be better and winning those possession downs. Looking ahead to next week against Detroit, you mentioned it might be, up in the air with who plays, but who do you hope to see out there playing? What do you hope to see from the team next week?
Well, I mean, personally, I think the starting offensive line needs to be out there because that was not a great performance at all. And as a guy who's been in that situation, knowing what it takes to be successful, that offensive line doesn't have chemistry. And you have a new guy at center in Zach Frazier because Nate Herbig's going to be out for an extended amount of time. So, Zach, you got to get on the same page with the rest of the guys, and everybody else has to also step up to the plate. We need to see better play from our tackles and our guards. So I think I would love to see that. I would also love to see this offense get a drive together going because we haven't seen that quintessential at least game scoring drive where you can see, okay, this is what we can build on in the future. So I'm really looking forward to that. Defensively, I thought they did a great job tonight. Just have to be better towards the end of the game.
Absolutely, and especially in the red zone, as
Yes.
Mike T also mentioned. We'll hopefully see some improvement there as well. Well, that's all the time we have on the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point. We want to thank everybody who was a part of this production, from the team, the staff, the coaches, and players. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.